Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Guns Akimbo. Guns Akimbo is about an underground operation that puts criminals against each other and has them battle to the death and live streams the skirmishes. They kidnap Daniel Radcliffe's character, force him to partake, bolt a pistol to each of his hands, and puts him up against Samara Weaving's character, who happens to be the best in the biz. If you don't think that this movie was at least somewhat inspired by Edward Forty Hands, I am ready to debate you for eternity. I will etch it on my gravestone. I'm right, you're wrong. As mentioned in a previous review, this movie has been staring at me since COVID began, quarantine started, and I was forced to start reviewing streamable content versus stuff coming out in theaters. The poster of Daniel Radcliffe's crazy cracked out eyes has just been screaming, "Watch me!" And every single week I'm like, maybe next week. And here we are, how many months later, on the cusp of what seems to be things going back to normalcy with Reviews with Jake. The movie theater in my town's about to open up. Movie release dates don't seem like they're jumping around all over the damn place. I mean, it's looking promising. I don't want to speak too soon, but looking good. Famous last words. Watch a couple months from now, I'm going to watch this review and be like, so naive. But for now, I'm going to say, it. Let's give this banana-ass movie my undivided attention. The pros for this movie start with its commitment to the ridiculousness at every single angle. This is the type of commitment I wanted to see from Project Power a few weeks ago. In fact, there's a lot of parallels that you can draw between that movie and this one. Both movies had ridiculous concepts and worlds that you could easily poke apart with logic if you really wanted to from start to finish. All of which the worlds just do not feel like they are a home for real life people. They're made for cartoon characters. They're like cartoon worlds. While Project Power went the ill-advised route of trying to bring this far out concept down to reality, this movie just went full send with it. The characters in this movie were ridiculous, insane, over the top, unbelievable, but they weren't trying to be anything different. These characters were just conduits. They were puppets to push this insane, fun, stupid world and plot forward. They weren't trying to give these characters any intrinsic value in themselves. These characters were letting one-liners fly left and right. They were cracking jokes. They were firing bullets into people's crotches. I mean, this just seemed like a movie that the writers were just sitting around in a room cracking beers and just having a good time. And we got to partake as well by watching some fun performances, particularly from Daniel Radcliffe and Samara Weaving. These aren't Academy Award-winning performances here, but they did a great job of pushing fun in the forefront. As did the production team here. This movie had some serious fun energy to it. Great camera work, very vibrant and lively use of color and lighting, some overlaying graphics that were like Deadpool or Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and then just a very energetic soundtrack that felt like almost like a video game. This was a wildly entertaining movie. It knew exactly what it was, stuck in its lane, and never overstepped itself, in my opinion. However, with that in mind, it cannot be a shock that this movie was not perfect. For starters, while I did really enjoy most of the things that I did in post, it did feel like it was a little overproduced at times. There were just so many sequences in this movie that it felt like it was over-edited. Way too many cuts. It felt like an early 2000s Fast and the Furious movie. I mean, this tactic of hyper-editing is generally used to sort of increase the perceptive speed of the film for the audience, and in that regard, maybe it was a calculated decision. You know, they wanted to keep this a high-tempo film, but I just didn't think they needed it from start to finish. There was plenty else going on in this movie that you didn't need the editor to show off what he can do. I mean, a little bit works, but I just felt like they kind of overdid it in this movie. I mean, that's totally just my opinion. Some people might dig this editing style, but for me, it just felt a little redundant at times. I also thought a lot of the CGI was pretty damn rough, particularly with a lot of on-screen elements like gunfire and blood spatter and just fire in general, teeth flying out of someone's mouth. All of it felt very, very fake. A lot of it felt like stock chroma key overlaying graphics that you can get off of like Pond 5 or video blogs. I mean, none of it felt like it was made for this movie. It just felt like they purchased it and laid it over top of the footage, and it didn't really blend very well. It also had a handful of really unnecessary scenes and subplots, some of which expired their usage and purpose after like 5 minutes and made me just ask what the hell the point of that was. And my final gripe with the film is going to confuse the hell out of you because I also love this aspect, and that's just the absurdity of the film. I mean, it is just so far out there. Maybe it's just the drone pilot in me, but I just look at the fact that all of these fights are being broadcast to the live streams via drones, and I just can't help but say that that won't work. You can't capture audio with a drone because they're so damn loud. They certainly aren't going undetected, and they aren't flying indoors capturing these fights, so the fact that people on these live streams are able to see a damn thing on these drones is just complete BS. And like I said before, I'm glad that this movie committed to its ridiculousness. It asks you to just take a leap, turn your brain off, and just go with it, which I did and I enjoyed it. But that doesn't mean that the fact that this plot is so absurd that it doesn't, put a cap on how high I can grade it, because that is a factor. And I'm A-okay with that. I'd much rather have a movie that is bonkers, knows that it's bonkers, doesn't try to be anything but bonkers, than a movie that is bonkers, tries to convince us that it's not bonkers, and fails. Project Power. I mean, it is successful to pull that off. I mean, if you really think about it, John Wick is kind of an example of that. I mean, that world and that plot, everything about it is just insane and over the top. But the fact that they were able to somehow ground this and bring it down to our level emotionally is impressive. I mean, that's what kind of separates that movie from this movie. Granted, they had to kill a dog to make it happen, those bastards. So while the absurdity and unbelievability of this movie does sort of put a ceiling on how high it can go, keeps it from going up to like that John Wick level of awesome, I'm glad that they didn't try and go to that and fail. I mean, I'm glad that they did not ruin the good thing that they had going here. All in all, though, I enjoyed this movie. It was a lot of fun. It was like the definition of a shut your brain off, have a beer and popcorn movie. I'm going to give Guns Akimbo a B. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe and thanks for checking in.